Hey, it's Sandra Pike here from Page Atlantic and the Pike Group. And today I thought to bring on Ben Young. Yes, he's my other half, but I am the better half. I just like to say that. But having said that, yesterday Ben would have attended the Atlantic Real Estate Forum, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend. And I know there's a lot of great information. However, I didn't bring Ben on just because he's my other half. Having said that, Ben, I'll get you to introduce yourself and just tell us what it is that you do.
So first of all, can we deal with the better half part of the conversation? Because that's a matter of opinion, certainly. And this is not, I'm the best realtor in North America, according to my mom. So that may be up for debate. And in fact, if we had to let your mom judge this one, I'm not sure if you're the better half. I might be willing to test that.
True enough.
Yes, I am the other half. Let's leave it at that. And I work for Southwest Properties. For those that don't know the company, it's one of the larger real estate developers in Halifax. Most of our work is on the urban core with mid to high rise buildings, although we are doing mixed use development out on the former Sisters of Charity land next to the Mount. So that will have some single family detached. It'll have a pretty big retail footprint at the base of our buildings, and then a bunch of multi-unit buildings. So, and I've been in my position, I'm senior vice president of development. So I deal with all of our projects from start to finish when we're speculating, buying, going through the design, and then the build out and hand over to operations. So, and I've been in the industry for a while. I spent a lot of time in the low rise sector for years with Raymar as well. So I think and I've lived in Halifax my whole life, so I know the market reasonably
Absolutely, well. You would.
Yeah. And I'm not a spring chicken, so I have a few years of experience. I'll get that out there now.
So one of the things, just speaking with some agents at the office, and when we speak to clients, and the downtown core changed so much when COVID hit. You had a lot of offices that were, closing up because they didn't need their employees to be in. Do you see that changing now that COVID is starting to lift? Like, what do you see happening with the downtown core?
So certainly one of the topics was an interesting topic of discussion for our panel yesterday at the real estate forum. And one, I would say it's fluid and it's still evolving. I don't think people have figured it out yet. From a practical standpoint, because of the sort of unemployment, it is let's call it a buyer's market with the way real estate agents would relate to it, that I think employees have a little bit more say in where they are going to work and how they want to work. And there would be a number of people that would see the stay at home, work from home as a real nice change to their lifestyle. That being said, it really depends on the individual. So in our company, for example, it just doesn't apply to some certain sectors. We have a construction team. Well, they need to be on site. It's not open for discussion. They were at work the entire time during COVID. We have a number of people that manage the building. So concierge, housekeeping, cleaners, maintenance people, they have to be on site. So again, there's a whole sector of the population that doesn't change. The pure office, then I would say you break it into two categories from a work perspective and two categories from a personality type, and to try and understand where we think we're going to land. One, I think hybrid is here to stay for sure. I don't see it going, and I think we're changing the way we work, and I think that's a good thing. I think there's probably some good things that have come out of it. But if you look at any firm where there's a lot of collaboration, then I would say the work from home is a struggle. Because you need to have some of that face-to-face interaction depending on the type of work. And then there's some accounting functions that, quite frankly, you're sitting doing payables or receivables or something all day, and dealing with those tasks, you might be better served actually without any interference. And then you have personality types where you have introverts and extroverts. Well, the extroverts, some of them will tell you that, they've been home and it's been really draining. Like they have not had people, they get energy from people and they can't wait to get back to the office. They want to get back around people. And then the introverts are the opposite, where people actually drain their energy. So they want to stay at home. So there's all kinds of moving parts that are taking place. The one thing that we subscribe to, and I think a lot of companies do, if you just want to hire employees because you don't care about employees, you don't care about culture, then sure, work from home 100% of the time. It doesn't matter, who cares? But in that situation, you could hire from anywhere. You could hire from overseas if you want to do that function. So you have to be careful what you wish for, I guess, on the other side of the equation. Culture is important at Southwest, And we don't think you can foster or develop a culture unless you have people in the office at least some of the time. So we'll have a hybrid model for sure for ours.
Gotcha. Now, on the topic of most people here now would be, is there, do you feel that the housing crisis is going to, continue, and how long? Or, they talked about yesterday how they wanted to address that. So I don't know, is it good to break it into two components? So as in high rise and maybe residential, or, I'll just let you decide.
I don't think so. I think they all live in the same ecosystem. And if there's no low-rise housing around or detached homes, then they're going to multi-unit buildings, whether it's a condo or rental, and vice versa. So people need to find a place to live, and they're going to find what's available. We're in a housing crisis. There's no doubt about it. There were some interesting numbers presented yesterday, and that a lot of the growth in Halifax was a result of international immigration. When COVID hit, that really slowed down. However, interprovincial migration jumped way up. So if you look at the numbers over the last couple of years, a lot of it has been interprovincial migration. And, there's an argument that said that that's going to slow down now as we get more comfortable with COVID. I think a lot of people migrated to Nova Scotia. Well, for two reasons. One, we did well through COVID, but other people realized, back to your initial question about work from home, that I can work from home. So why wouldn't I cash out of Ontario, move to Atlantic Canada, back to my roots, work from a home office, and away I go. This has been going on for a while. So it's, if you look at migration, no matter where it's come from, international, now interprovincial, we've been running a deficit for the past 5 years. We've had more people coming in than we've had housing stock, whatever that stock is. That's why I say I'd put it all in the same category, whether it's apartments or homes or condos or whatever. Collectively, we've not been bringing enough doors on to keep up with the number of people that are coming in. So what's happened, and you would have seen it in real estate, the number of listings are going down, the number of vacancies are going down, because we were eating into what was a surplus, and a healthy surplus in the market. There should always be a little surplus, I believe, in the market to keep it balanced. And we're down to the point now where, literally the vacancies are almost zero. And you can argue that there's almost no homes on the market, because as soon as they come up, they're gone. So is that going to get corrected? Yeah, it can be corrected. Two things will correct it. One, migration is going to slow down, either interprovincial or international. That's not good if you're a city that wants to grow. And or you're going to replenish the stock, but the replenishment of the stock is going to take time. So there is no short-term fix. I don't see this thing going away in the near term. I do think that governments are focused on it. We're not the only one going through this. There's, most of the major cities in North America are suffering the same supply chain issues. So I think that there'll be a push to try and bring more housing stock in some form into most markets to correct it.
Reading an article on Nova Scotia a couple of mornings ago, I know Killam, for example, they are just holding off on some projects just because of cost. So isn't that not something like, that going to contribute to the housing crisis still?
Yeah, it's going to make it worse. And Killam's not the only one pumping the brakes. And I won't name the others, but I've talked to other people, and there's a lot of people kind of pumping the brakes. They want to see where interest rates are going. And, the market's a little volatile right now. Everybody's talking about a potential recession. We're maxed out right now on trades. We've had a lot of escalation on price. We'd like to see some of that stabilize. Is oil going to keep going up? So yeah, I think there is definitely a potential for a pause in the supply chain, which will make things a little bit more difficult.
So from a real estate, like not a real estate, but let's say from a residential real estate perspective, I've seen some properties taking now a little bit longer to sell, even upwards of 16 days. So do you feel that if, the bigger companies are putting the brakes on building multi-units, right? Are we still going to be in the bidding wars that we have right now? Is that still going to continue?
Well, that is an interesting question. I would be speculating, and I'd hate to be like an economist, because they don't usually get it right when they guess. But that's, everybody's going to try and guess. So I would try and answer that question by looking at a few factors. Do we think the housing supply chain is going to increase? I would say no. Do we think the prices will continue to escalate at the pace they have gone? I don't think it's sustainable, because at some point, the mortgages have to be income tested, and our incomes have not grown at the same pace of inflation or the same rate that the homes have increased. So there's absolutely an end to that. People can only afford so much, and there's only so many of the buyers from the outside that are going to come in and eat up that market. So if that starts to dry up, and if I were speculating, and I say now with the price of oil and gas, a lot of the migration you would have seen from the Western provinces is not going to happen. In fact, I would say that Calgary and the Western province are probably going to do a little bit better now. Newfoundland's interesting. They've got, some offshore stuff that could pump into that economy. So, I don't know that we can rely on that outside money coming in and paying those higher numbers. And those were a big chunk of the buyers in the past. And, it's the pricing had to catch up. So I think what happened in the last year, you had a Halifax, which was seen to be a good deal. So the prices have been reset now. So the question is, are they going to be reset again? I don't think they're going down. I just, they're not, I can't see them going up by 20-25% for the next 2 years. That'd absolutely shock me. So I think the market's it's gonna get a little quieter. If I were selling a house, I wouldn't want to, I think I'd be setting the price based on what the most recent one sold, but I'd be telling the buyers yeah, that was the bid up price. So you don't think it's going to get bid up by another $100,000. And, we may not be in a situation where you're going to get 20 viewings and 12 offers. It's just, I think it's going to shift a little bit.
No, I would have to agree. And, keeping on with the housing crisis that we are faced with, especially in the downtown core, you have a lot of homelessness. So did they address that yesterday?
We talked about it. I would say probably so. Homelessness is, you can look at two things. We talk about affordability and we talk about homelessness. So just to make sure we're talking about two different things. So affordability is putting people in a situation when they can't afford to buy a home. The homelessness we talked about is really the presence on streets and panhandlers and people that are in unfortunate situations. They may be suffering from addiction or mental illness that they need help on. And so we spent a little bit of time talking about that because we wanted to know how it was going to impact the retail footprint. Is getting to be a problem where people are not sort of comfortable in the downtown and the urban core, and how do they deal with it? So maybe a little bit less on the housing stock. I don't think it has any impact on the housing stock. Does it have an impact on whether people will want to live downtown or not? That would be more of a real estate question on choice of where they want to live. I think the good news is everybody's talking about it now. People are, governments are aware of it and people are starting to talk about it. And certainly the commentary that came out yesterday is you can't police your way out of it. You can't just go and say, okay, we've got a problem up on Spring Garden Road, so we're going to put a police presence in and move them along, because you're just moving shells around at that point in time. They're going somewhere else. And to get them into a safe environment in the evenings, they have a place to go, is half of the problem. It's a short-term fix, but the long-term fix is to try and deal with, whatever those people are going through, to try and get them back on their feet and in a situation where they can, they're not out on the streets, feel like they have to panhandle, and if there's any addictions, that they get the right support to try and deal with it and that. So I don't know. I think that we feel, I guess the way I phrased it yesterday, while there are situations that have been unfortunately unsafe or things have happened, I think it's less about being unsafe and more about us being uncomfortable. And my suggestion is that, these are people that are going through struggles. For the most part, they don't cause any harm, or they don't threaten us in any way. You walk by the street, just say hi to them, ask them how their day's going, treat them like a human being. Yeah, let them be part of our fabric for a while. And, maybe you can't understand everything that they're doing or going through. And if you don't want to give them money, don't give them money. That's a personal choice, but they're human beings. Treat them like human beings. And that's half of it, so that we can, I think that trying to hide them or pretend it's going away it doesn't work. And the one thing that we did say yesterday in dealing with it, and that I think everybody agreed with, is that province, municipality, federal government, everybody's talking about it, but somebody has to take ownership. So you can't have three different entities trying to tackle the same problem, because it's too easy for them to look at one another and say, well, you should be doing more. If somebody owns it, they own it, and let them collaborate with the other two. It's the way to deal with it.
So should it be the municipality then, you think, or the provincial?
So we didn't weigh in on that, and I just don't have enough of an opinion to know whether this is better managed on the provincial end or the municipal end, frankly. And I stayed, yesterday when we were talking about that, I just said, look, I don't know enough, and I would say the same thing now. I'm not sure where it should reside, but I do feel it should reside with somebody, so somebody's accountable for it.
Mm-hmm. What would be your golden nugget that you would have taken away yesterday, like an aha moment, or the most valuable piece of information that you would have received?
Well, there's a lot of aha moments. It's good to go to those conferences. It gives you, certainly, some of it is just telling you what you've heard, seeing some numbers. And you get sort of well-rounded. So they had bankers, developers. They had a number of people there, so you get some perspective on it. I would say the thing that surprised me the most, which we already talked about, I didn't realize the shift in interprovincial migration into the Atlantic province. I didn't realize how large a part that played. And I don't have the graphs. You can probably get the graphs from them, but it was, I knew there were a lot of people coming in, and I knew that the international migration slowed down, but I didn't appreciate the shift between the two of them until I saw it, saw the numbers laid out. So that was probably the biggest aha moment for me. I found that interesting.
Just off that question, when they talked about, international migration, do they see that coming up again as COVID now is lifting?
Yep, I think that everybody would anticipate that that's going to return, will return back to pre-COVID numbers. Not sure, but they see it returning. Yeah.
Well, that's it, Ben. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
I really didn't have a choice. I was
No, you didn't.
voluntold. I was voluntold to be on the call. And so anyway, I'd like to say it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.